Good evening. This is Dale Lamb from Gardner Webb. It's about 7:08. I haven't had anybody join me. The email did come through about 6 minutes ago, but I'm going to go ahead and get started. This is week 6, MELS 605 summer session. Please remember that next week we will not have class, as it is the week of the 4th, the holiday week. This week, again, week 6, constructive discipline, program evaluation, self-awareness, and leadership style are the themes for the week. Those are our objectives, our topics for week 6. I have some things under our week 6 Zoom that I want to cover with you tonight. Just lock it from the inside. Just lock it from the inside, spin the lock, and close it. All right. Okay. So our first share tonight, new share, is Johari's window. This is about knowing yourself. That's one of our themes this week. And so I have this document. I want to make sure I always give credit to people, to American psychologists Luft and Harrington Ingram. And here is the quadrant of Johari's window: known to self, known to others, not known to others, not known to self, your arena, your facade, your blind spot. Blind spot obviously is not known to self, but known to others. Not known to others and not known to self is the unknown. So this is the quadrant. I also have on our weekly schedule, our weekly page, share screen, desktop, share screen. Under week 6, I also have, if it will open up, the PDF, and the PDF if it will load. There it comes, hopefully. A model for self-awareness, personal development, group development, and understanding. That's the Johari window. And so what I have here for you is the rationale and how and when you use it, when it's relevant, what the model is, the terminology, it gives all the explanations, has the pains, and you can work all the way through this. You have a question in your discussion boards on this, and it was in some of our reading, and so this is what you need to know about it. And I won't work through this with you, but you can work through this, and it's a good exercise. It takes about 30 minutes if you're interested in this. But again, it's about knowing yourself, which is a major function of leadership, is to know yourself. So that's the first thing I have, and that's our first theme for the evening, is knowing yourself. Again, I don't have anybody with me, so we won't work through that. If I had some participants, we could work through it, but since we don't, we'll move on. Also tonight on management, I have a couple of items for you on management. The first one, I think I've touched on this one before, but on management, I have an assessment inventory, and what this is for is, let's see, yeah, it should be, you should be seeing this one. Yep, there it is. All right, so as I told you earlier, North Carolina General Statute 115C 288 Says you have to have a monthly fire drill. It also says you have to have a bi-monthly or twice a month. You have to do a safety inspection or have your custodian and one of your assistant principals. And I've told you, as the new assistant principal, when you get your job, Amanda, I'm talking to you, one of your duties is going to be to make sure that that assessment is done every 2 weeks for safety around your building. And so I created this one. This one came out of the Safe Schools Manual for DPI. I created this one for administrators in Charlotte Mecklenburg to use. They wanted to know, well, what's the fire marshal going to be looking for when he comes? I don't know what he's going to be looking for. Well, here it is. This is what the fire marshal will be looking for when he comes. So I'm not telling you the fire marshal is going to come every month. What I'm telling you is the law says every 2 weeks you're supposed to do a safety inspection. So if I were the assistant principal at a building, every 2 weeks I'd get with the custodian, we'd go around and we'd do this. It takes about 15 minutes, 30 at the most. Between 15 and 30 minutes, you run around and do all these things. You make sure that you date this thing, the school and the date, and you keep them on file. So when the fire marshal comes and you walk around with him, you can show him that you've been doing this on a regular basis. So if there's any questions, you can show that things haven't been an ongoing problem. So this is something that you really need to make sure that you do, because most assuredly the new AP always gets this task. This is one of those management routines that you need to make sure that you do. This one's often overlooked, but this is the one that can get you in trouble the quickest when the fire marshal comes and finds something out of order. Fines and other issues come up. And almost without, redundant, almost without exception, you will find, hey, Yolanda, I see Yolanda has joined us, thank you. But almost without exception, the new assistant principal, this duty falls to them. And you need to make sure that you document that you've done this and you use this assessment inventory. You just download it and print it out. It's a Word document, so you can print it out and you make you this document and you walk around and you do this twice a month and you're good to go. Costs you about an hour a month. I can say that again, about an hour a month, and it's well worth it for the protection that it will afford you if something goes wrong with your building. Again, I've told you in the past, leadership is different from management. I mean, we've been looking at the difference between leadership and management. Leadership is about vision and motivation and those kinds of things. Management's making sure that the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, and making sure that you protect yourself and your school from legal ramifications from people suing you. As I've told you in the past, having an adequate number of teachers in the cafeteria may not stop the kids from fighting or something bad from happening, but you won't lose when somebody sues you. If their child gets hurt, you won't lose in court for having inadequate supervision. So I know that's kind of a crass and hard way to look at things, but that's what management is. I'm not telling you that doing this assessment inventory every 2 weeks will keep something bad from happening at your building. But what I can tell you is if you've been doing these and you document that you've been doing these, and when something does happen, you will be able to protect yourself and your school. And that's what's important in management, not in leadership, but in management. All right, so let's go back. I also have the crisis box. New assistant principal, I probably covered this one before for you too, but again, this is the legal ones that really get you, because when something big and bad happens, folks are always looking to sue or for blame because they've lost, they've experienced loss or injury or whatever. Parents are quick to do that. The crisis box, you will be in charge of that as the new assistant principal. Most assuredly, you'll be in charge of that. Again, if we can get it to load. Blackboard's a little slow tonight. All right, and so, but this is the theory behind the crisis response box. It has all the information, and it has the theory behind it and those kinds of things, and all the people who put this together, and all of the theory and those things. But it also has the list of things that you need. You need aerial photos of your campus. If you don't, just like a blueprint, a map, campus layout, blueprint of the buildings. You need a teacher employee roster. You need keys. That you also need a classroom list. Those should be run by your data manager every Monday. Your fire alarm turn off procedures, places where your gas valves and other sprinkler systems shut off, utility like gas valves, your gas line layout, your satellite or TV cable feed shut off, photos for students. If you've got a den of kid, they'll make you a disc with kids' photos on them. If not, you need at least the roster. You need phone numbers of the key people, of emergency responders. You need your designated staging areas, and you should have 3 of those. One is on campus, one is where your kids can walk nearby off campus, and the other is when you can be evacuated by buses. You need to have those sites already designated where that information can be released to parents. All those things should be in there. Your emergency resources list, people, again, your evacuation sites, again, you should have 3 of those, one on campus like out at the ball field, one maybe a church nearby, and another where you ride the buses to. Emergency data cards, student attendance rosters, inventory of staff list students with special needs, first aid supplies location, emergency first aid supplies in your box. All those things should be in that box. Again, you know, it's all fun and games until something bad happens. Well, you know, what's the chances of these things happening? They're pretty good. You know, I've told you in the past, I was a high school principal during both Jonesboro, Arkansas shootings and the Columbine shootings. I know that's been a long time ago, but we've had some other school shootings in more recent years when things go bad. 99 times or 999 times out of 1,000, when you go to some kind of a lockdown or evacuation, you know, usually it's just precautionary, but you never know. And even if it's precautionary, it needs to run smoothly. And as I said, this is probably going to be one of the things that you're going to be responsible for as the new assistant principal, is to make sure that that crisis box is under the front counter of the school and all the things that are in it. The big thing that once you get most of this in there, it's in there. The big thing is making sure right here that your data manager runs a student attendance roster every Monday morning and puts it in that box and takes the old one out. So you'll know what kids are supposed to be with what teachers, so that you don't lose anybody. You know what an ordeal it is when a kid gets left on a school bus. Think about if you lost kids in some kind of an evacuation because of a disaster of some sort. You just think leaving a kid on a school bus is bad news. Wait till you can't find kids when there's a bomb threat or a bomb or there's a shooter or something nearby and school has to be evacuated or goes on lockdown. You lose kids in that situation, it will not go well for you. And so that's the big one, is making sure your student attendance roster is in there every Monday. Again, this is one of those management things that may not come into play very often, but when it does, it's about your job. You need to remember that this is about your job. And the last thing I have for you is TWC facilities and resources. These are things that you should keep an eye on, because probably you're going to be in charge of facilities in terms of the inventory, making sure you pass the safety inspection, do the fire drills, the emergency box. Along with that comes the items on the teacher working condition survey that teachers rate the school on, and by extension rate the administrative staff on. So these are the things you need to keep an eye on all the time. So let's look at those things, because more than likely you're going to be in charge of these. Again, this is a management function. Teachers have sufficient access to appropriate instructional materials. One of the complaints that you hear a lot of times when I was in the central office, and even when I was a principal, the stuff's always locked up. They can't ever get to the stuff. It's in the supply room. It's always locked up. You need to make sure that teachers have sufficient access. You may have to devise some kind of a system so they don't clean you out the first month of school, but you need to have some way that they can get to instructional supplies if they need them. Somebody, something, or somebody, you need to make sure that you do that. Teachers have sufficient access to instructional technology, including computers, printers, software, and internet access. You need to make sure those things are up and running. If they don't, you need to be able to put a work order in and get them up and running. If they're not working, you can't just ignore those things, because you'll get killed on your teacher working conditions survey over those things. You may not have a person on your campus who takes care of that stuff. It may be a work order to the central office. That's fine. But there's a work order system, and you need to know what that work order system is to technology to get your things up and running again. It may be as simple as having to go and reset your modem or something like that, but you need to be cognizant of that and keep those things up and do what you do. Even if you're not the one that fixes it, if you're the one that's responsible to keep it fixed, you need to make sure you get those work orders in. Teachers have access to reliable communication technology, including phones, faxes, and email. Again, you may not be doing the work, but if it's down, you need to make sure that you notify somebody immediately. Teachers have sufficient access to office equipment supplies such as copy machines, paper, pens, etc. Now, I know copy machines are a sore spot in the school business because we don't want teachers running off dittos all the time and worksheets and those kinds of things. But when they need access, they need it. And so if the copy machine is down, you need to be the one that calls the copy repairman. It's kind of it's a damned if you do and damned if you don't. If you keep it up and running, they use it too much. But if you don't keep it up and running, they kill you on your surveys about, our stuff never works. Teachers have access to a broad range of professional support personnel. You have a lot of folks in your central office who provide a lot of services. You have discipline specialists, you have instructional specialists, you have instructional coaches. You need to make sure that you know as a new assistant principal what that range of services is. You may get a job in the same school where you were a teacher. You may get a job in the same district where you're a teacher, but you need to find out what services are available, because you may not have ever had to use them as a teacher, but you need to make sure you know what professional support services are available, who those personnel are, and how to get in touch with them. The school environment is clean and well maintained. That goes back to that assessment inventory. Teachers have adequate space to work productively. Again, keeping their, making teachers do that themselves. A lot of that is not, you didn't provide them the space. They just tend to collect up junk and pile it up. Again, that goes back to that assessment inventory, making sure that those rooms stay cleaned out and that they don't just pile junk in them where they don't have room to work and it's not safe to be in the room. The physical environment of classrooms that's in the school supports teaching and learning. That goes again back to, you can't just pile a bunch of junk in rooms. You can't allow teachers to do that. The reliability and speed of internet connection in the school are sufficient to support instructional practices. Again, you may not be the person that does that, but you're the one that makes sure if it's not working that you find the appropriate personnel to get it working again. So these are things you need to keep an eye on. If you are the facilities manager, and usually the new assistant principal, that falls to them. It's a management function. These are the things you need to keep an eye on, because these are the things that you're going to be assessed on the teacher working condition survey. And this is going to be a part of your evaluation as assistant principal, is this management function. So when I'm asked, well, I'm in charge of facilities, what does that mean? Start with this list and understand that you need to maintain the crisis box, you need to do the fire drills, and you need to make sure that you do the safety inspections every 2 weeks. If you do these three things, fire drills, safety, and four things: fire drills, safety inspections, that's really one, but we'll call them two, the crisis box, and keep an eye on this list, you'll be a good facilities manager. And that's going to be one of the first tests of your ability as an administrator, is can you manage the facility? That's consistent across the state and across the nation. The new assistant principal, the first thing that we give them to do generally is to make sure that they can manage the facility. And many times the new assistant principal has no idea what that means. This is what it means. So if you've got these four documents, if you can do these four things: a fire drill, safety inspections, Maintain the crisis box and look after facilities and resources that you're going to be evaluated on the teacher working conditions survey. You will be a successful facilities manager. And so that's what that is. All right, so when we go back and look, at what our objectives were for the evening, let's see if we have met those. For week 6, we were to look at self-awareness, and we did that with the Johari window. Again, I won't go through all that with you, but you should pay attention to that Johari window. That is a practical way to become self-aware. We've looked at program evaluation in terms of the facility. We did not look at constructive discipline tonight. We've looked at that in the past. That's one of those things that we've already talked about. Mostly that is PBIS. If you're not familiar with PBIS, and you should be, I have not put anything on there tonight. I would encourage you to go to the DPI website on PBIS, Positive Behavior Intervention Support System. If you're not familiar with it, most of you are intimately familiar with that, but if you are not, I would suggest going to the DPI website on that. And so I have not spent very much time. I have spent time in the past on disciplinary data reporting, incident reporting, and those kinds of things. I have already spent a good deal of time covering those things. The only other topic I wanted to hit tonight was to mention PBIS as being a part of constructive discipline, and I want to point you toward that. You need to become intimately familiar now. You say, Dale, why don't you put something on our site? Because it's different for every district. That's why I said I referred you back to, I would go back and look at the state's, at DPI's website on PBIS, but then you need to look at your individual district plan and school plan for PBIS, because those things are customized. There's no way I could show you one that would fit your district because they're all different. But a good starting point is DPI's website on PBIS, and then find your own district or your own school's PBIS plan is what I would suggest for you to do. So we've covered our topics tonight. These are the practical application. I've given you what you're going to be assessed on teacher working conditions survey. I've shown you how to build your crisis box and given you a document that will help you to do that. I've shown you an assessment inventory that the fire marshal will use when they come out and look at your building. And obviously, you know how to do a fire drill. That's part of your crisis plan, is have a place on campus where you meet and make sure teachers have their rosters in their hands. That's all a fire drill is. So that's part of the crisis box. That's part of your evacuation plan. When you do a fire drill, you go to that first stage of evacuation to a place on your campus. And that's all covered in the crisis box material, so that I didn't put anything additional in there for fire drill, since that's covered under crisis box. But if you will look at those documents that I've given you tonight, you will be an effective facilities manager, and that's the idea here. And you will be a facilities manager that will be able to withstand lawsuits if something does go bad, and God forbid something does happen to somebody or your facility. You will have the documentation in place that that bad things just happen to good people sometimes, and that you had taken the appropriate steps for planning and preparation for your facility. All right. I see my time is about up. Please remember that next week, the 2nd through the 8th, is the holiday week for Gardner Webb. We will not be back. We'll be back for our last 4 weeks, starting on Wednesday, 2 weeks from tonight, when we'll cover clinical supervision, effective communication, and group development on meetings. We'll cover those. I've got some materials online for you under week 7. Week 8, leading effective teams, curriculum and managing performance. Week 9, facilitating change process, community and diversity, and then we'll cover the Rath and Conchi book on week 10 on Strength Finder. Hopefully you've already started reading that book. Some of you have already done the discussion boards on that one with your top 5 strengths. If not, you need to go ahead and get started on that one pretty soon. This upcoming week might not be a bad time to read that book while you've got a week off. Please remember that if you have evidence artifact work that has not been turned in, it is due by Monday, July 3rd. Let's go back and review that. Let's review our salient dates for the summer here. I have them on the front page. July 3rd, all MEL artifacts and components must be submitted. These will be evaluated within 7 days. So expect results no later than July 10th. By 17th, all of the revisions must be in and be done. And by 23rd, the rest of the things in your portfolio. And I had a question this week. What does the rest of the things in my portfolio mean? It means all your dispositions done by you, and your clinical coach does the other half. Your site supervisor does a set. They can go in anytime and do those, and your site supervisor does certification of competency. Your clinical coach does the other half of competency. Dr. Neal will do licensure in the end. You need to make sure that you've uploaded your competency folio that you built that has one competency proof for all 21 competencies. Your internship log, you need to make sure that you've uploaded it. So that's what we mean by all the rest of your portfolio requirements. If I can get it to come up, and I never know if I can, we'll look at that right quick on task stream. Okay, so this is what your work page looks like in task stream. So when we talk about July 3rd, what's due by then? All of the AppSell, all of the AppTel, all the SKIP, all the OMA, all the CAP, and all the SIOP. All those things are due by July 3rd. Any revisions will be then due by July 17th. Then the rest of this stuff, as I said, the internship log, the competency folio, those are both items that you upload. Licensure evaluation is done by Dr. Neal. Competency is done by your coach, does one half, and your site supervisor at your school does the other. You must fill out all of your dispositions, all 6 of these, and then your coach will do the other half of them, and then your site supervisor does 3, and they can go in at any time and do their 3. Now, your coach can only do the other half of these 6 once you've done them to begin with. So if you have not done all 6 of your dispositions, do them now. Your site supervisor can do these at any time. Again, let me know if your site supervisor does not have their username and password for TaskStream or is having trouble doing your 4 evaluations in TaskStream. What are the 4 evaluations your site supervisor must do in TaskStream? They are disposition semester 1, 3, and 5, as well as certification of competency. That's the 4 that they must do. So if you don't know if those things have been done yet, go to your scores results page right here, and it will tell you if things have been, what your results are, if they've been done or not. So as you can see, mine haven't been done because I haven't submitted mine. But this is where you check to see what you have left to do. All right. Questions about TaskStream and about the dates. Going back again, here are your dates right here if you have any question about those. All right. So we've covered all of our objectives tonight. We've covered our dates for TaskStream. We've covered the difference between artifact components and the rest of your portfolio in terms of an explanation of what these dates mean. Any other questions that you have for me before I sign off tonight?
Nothing else, thanks.
All right, Yolanda, thank you for coming out with me tonight. Everybody have a good week and a good holiday. I will see you in 2 weeks.
Okay, you too, thanks.
Thank you.